Hi everybody, it's Paul from Groovy Cigs in Southampton. Just wanted to have a little chat to you about this stuff. Heisenberg from Vampire Vape, the best-selling e-liquid in the known universe. I mean, you know, might want to think about why that is, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about. So, first of all, Heisenberg gets its name, of course, from the character in Breaking Bad. So we all know about that. He's a chemistry teacher. He gets cancer, and obviously, if you live in America and you've got cancer, then you're looking at the rest of your miserable life being spent funding stuff that's going to stave off death for a short period of time and cause you a great deal of suffering. This stuff is called chemotherapy. Anyway, old Heisenberg, or Walter White as his character is originally known, he figures that, the best way to fund all this extremely expensive cancer treatment is to become a drug dealer, obviously. So that's what he does, and he makes crystal meth. Of course, crystal meth is blue, and he sells it, he makes a ton of money, and it all ends up actually rather badly in the end, of course, because crime, you know, it doesn't pay, does it? Yeah. Anyway, so that's Heisenberg for you. What people don't know is that, of course, Breaking Bad didn't just make this name up. Heisenberg is named after a physicist in the early 20th century. He was around about the same time as Einstein, and he invented something called the Heisenberg principle, named demonstrably after him, so what that states is that in the world of the subatomic, the very, very small, you know, we're talking about, I don't know, hadrons and quarks and stuff like that, the faster something moves, one of these hadrons and quarks or these subatomic particles, the faster that stuff moves, the less certain you can be where it is at any given time. And I mean, that sounds reasonable, doesn't it? I don't know. It's reasonable. So that's what it's named after. It's named after this physicist in the early 20th century. So, as to the juice itself, most of the small pots of juice, 10 millilitres, because they can't be any bigger than that if they've got nicotine in, is made of a combination of usually the following. So you have flavouring. So in most 10 ml bottles, the flavouring will constitute somewhere between 5 and 10%, maybe, something like that. And then it also has vegetable glycerine in it, which is what's called a carrier, and I'll explain that in a minute. It has PG, propylene glycol, which is also a carrier, and some of them also have ionized water for cheapness. None of our juices do, of course. So that's that. Now, a carrier basically is something in e-liquid. It can either be VG, vegetable glycerine, or PG, propylene glycol. And the carrier basically helps to turn the liquid into vapor. Now, VG and PG have different properties. VG is thick and PG is thin. So if you take a bottle of juice, assuming it's got no ionized water in it, and that's important, and you just kind of tip it and move it about a bit, if it moves fairly freely, if it moves very freely, it's probably got a relatively large amount of PG in it and a relatively small amount of VG. And if it's thicker and more glupified, then you know it's a higher amount of VG and a lower amount of PG. So VG gives you clouds and smoothness, and that's lovely. We all like that. But PG gives you throat hit and flavour. So you need like a combination of the two things because everyone wants all of those things. And it's then just a question of where you kind of accent it. Do you have more PG or more VG? Now, usually with small bottles, they tend to be around about 50% of each. Our Heisenberg and Pinkman, however, are 70% VG. So they're more like the big bottles you can see up the back there, in that they're high VG, so they're thicker and they're a bit gloopier, and they'll be a little bit smoother. And we've generally tended to find that people prefer stuff that's maybe slightly higher in VG than PG. Although there's a bit of Emperor's New Clothes going on about all this. I mean, you know, the small bottles are 50% VG and the high, apart from Heisenberg and Pinkman, and the big bottles are 70% VG. And I would challenge anybody now, and do by all means take me up on this challenge, to be able to tell in a blindfold test whether the juice that you're vaping is 50% VG or 70% VG, because 99% of people would not be able to do that. And we know that because we've kind of run those sort of tests. So essentially, juice that's 70% VG, like this stuff up here, some people say, you know, you've got to have big kits for this. That is a lie. It's rubbish, and it's based on ignorance and kind of, you know, some sort of elitism. The fact is that I've been using 70% VG liquid in tiny little kits, you know, like this for 10 years. It's fine. And also you can use 50-50 liquid in your big kits. No problem whatsoever. So, yeah, a lot of Emperor's New Clothes about all that. Now, with the big bottles, sometimes if you go much higher, you can have problems with smaller kits because they're not powerful enough to power through the gloop of the VG. But I've only ever had a problem with that on one occasion, and that was when I was incredibly, you know, hubristically sticking a 100% VG liquid in a very small kit, and the very small kit said, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. And it didn't, and it all got clogged up, and you have to tip the juice away and chuck the coil and, you know, put a lower VG juice in there. But that was 100% VG, so it's got to be really thick and really gloopy for a small kit not to cope with it. And the fact is that all of our juice is 70%. I think maybe some of it's a bit 80% or something, but I've never had any problem whatsoever, apart from that one occasion, using any juice in any kit. So that's that. Heisenberg itself is it's like a blueberry. It's basically blueberry menthol. It's got a couple of red berries in there and a bit of aniseed, I think, something like that. It's an industry secret, you know. It's all kept way under wraps, and because it's very popular. And of course, lots of people have tried to clone it, and indeed we at Groovy Juice have also done that. And we've got a flavour called Heisen, and it tastes exactly the same as Heisenberg, but it's white and not blue. And that seems to kind of make a difference to the way it's perceived. And indeed, you know, for 3 months we had up on our taster station, we had Heisenberg and 9 other clones, 9 copies of Heisenberg. And the challenge was to people to say, well, tell us which is the original Heisenberg. And not one person in 3 months could do it. But notwithstanding that, everyone wants the original Heisenberg. I don't know why. I mean, it's a matter of perception, really. But most of the clones taste pretty much exactly the same, and as I say, most people couldn't tell the difference. But it's popular. It's, I think, the most popular juice in the world. It's certainly the most popular juice in the UK. And in terms of the Vampire Vape flavours, it outsells all the others by a very considerable margin. The next best flavours you've got are Pinkman sells well, and a new one that's kind of been really knocking on the doors of Pinkman is Sweet Lemon Pie. That sells really well as well. So there it is, Heisenberg juice from Vampire Vape. Thanks for watching.